All right, let's do it one more time. Party people in the place of people. What's going on? It's me. Another movie came out recently that I decided that I wanted to talk at least a little bit about. Psych 3. This is Gus. We're going to do non-spoiler section. Obviously, beforehand, before we get to the spoiler section, you'll see the timestamp. When you see the timestamp, we'll get to that when we get to that. In this movie, Gus is having a baby. We knew that from the last movie, because the last movie ended with Gus having a baby. Well, actually, the last movie ended with Gus having a baby, and then... Wait, no. Wasn't John Cena in... Anyway, with Gus was about to have a baby. Gus's girlfriend said that she was pregnant, played by Jasmine Simon, Dule Hill's real-life wife and baby mama, apparently. They revealed that in the last one, and so we're here in this new one. This new one has a lot of sentimentality to it, especially front-loaded in the movie, because it gets silly for the rest. It does all the sentimentalities. It's like, we got to do this stuff, but instead of trying to balance it, it's like front load the sentimentality stuff, silliness throughout the rest. This feels like a Psych episode. This feels like, you know, a long episode of Psych. And I didn't dislike the other two movies. Particularly, I thought the first Psych movie was probably the best one. But Psych 2 wasn't bad either. This feels just like a very long Psych episode. Like some of the less, like not like the Yang episodes, but like just very, you know, the more lighthearted episodes. So this movie was more lighthearted, really in tone, all the way through. You know who the crew is. They're all back together. In some parts, in some aspects, in some ways more than others. So I feel like this was probably done somewhere around quarantine time. This is clearly a post-pandemic movie because we do get some recurring characters that only show up on screens, and I feel like there was a reason for that. It probably had something to do with the Rona that has been going around at different points whenever filming had to take place. Maybe they wanted to keep people safer, or some people may have had something and gotten over it, whatever the actual details were. Not everybody was back on set at the same time doing their Psych things. It was clearly a post-pandemic thing, but it didn't feel off-putting. It didn't feel jarring. You know what I mean? It's something that I didn't really notice until we got towards the end, and I'm like, oh yeah, like there. I started counting, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like it didn't disrupt the flow of the movie, which is good. Technically, they did a very good job. Not spoiling any actual aspects of the movie itself. Obviously, this is non-spoiler section. I had a problem with Gus's girlfriend, the way she was characterized previously. I hated her. I hated her. In the previous iterations, I couldn't stand her. At the end of I think she shows up at the end of the first movie. We were in the first movie, and then she's pestering Juliet through the second movie because she's got something to, like. I hated the way that she was written. I hate, like, the way she was acted. I can't necessarily take anything away from Jasmine Simon. She was doing her assignment. That was a unfortunate almost rhyme, but still, she was doing what she was told. But I hated the character, and it really came into focus when I saw her on Ballers, because I ended up watching Ballers. I started watching Ballers after I watched the first Psych movies, and she was much better presented, essentially a take on the same character, driven, has a mission, etc., etc. But she was done way better on Ballers. Way more engaging, way more likable on Ballers than she was on Psych, which was a shame. But yeah, I liked that version of that character better on Ballers. Supportive in her man's life, etc., etc. I liked that version on Ballers much better than I liked it in the first two Psych movies. Here, they do remedy some of that. They do remedy some of that. Again, I'm not going to get into spoilers just yet, but they do remedy that. She's not, and that was going to be, that was my apprehension going into this, was, is it going to be 2 hours or 90 minutes of the Selene, I thought it was Celine the whole time, the Selene character, just abrasiveness and off-timing and just sort of hackiness about the Selene character. Was it going to be like about 45? Was she going to take up a significant chunk of this movie? And she's in the movie probably an appropriate amount, and she's not. I don't hate her. I didn't walk away from this movie hating that character anymore. I was like, oh, okay, good. It seems like, and this is the thing that brings the psychos together. This is the thing that really makes the community of Psych fans and makes it so that, God, when did this show start? 2004? 3, 4, 17, 18 years later, makes people and fans still want to come together and reminisce and catch new adventures, even if it's not on a weekly basis, but new adventures with these characters, is that the creators of the show, the producers of the show, which include Dule Hill and James Roday Rodriguez, they listen to and appreciate and respect the fan base and want the universe, the Psych universe, to make sense and to be enjoyable for everybody, and they do things that make sense for this universe that make you still engage with these characters, that don't make you hate these characters. You know what I mean? There's no turns of like, oh, I hate this character. Like, there may have been points in the series where like you were a little disappointed with the way a storyline went. Let's not talk about that wedding episode. Let's not talk about it. I always skip it, or at least go halfway and then skip a couple episodes. I just can't. But I didn't hate Juliet for that. I just didn't like seeing that progression with her and Sean happen. I just didn't like seeing that destruction in that series, in that season happen. So it was hard. It was a rough slog to get through. But we're past that now, and we're past this movie. Overall, it's a caper movie. You know, Gus is trying to plan a wedding. It's a caper movie, but they gotta solve a mystery in the meantime. You know, it's a Psych episode. It's a long Psych episode, and we take different detours with different characters, and again, get to examine more of some of the not marquee name character, which is really only Dule Hill and James Rodriguez. It's a little. I still want to say Roday, but Roday Rodriguez. It's, they're the marquee characters, and we spend the appropriate amount of time with them, but we also get to examine some of the other characters, and that's good. And there was something that they were about to do that I thought was going to turn me off, but they still didn't do it, and I'm happy that they didn't do that. And we'll talk about that in just a second, because we're about to get into spoiler territory, kids. So I'm going to take my customary sip. They didn't have pineapple. I squeezed a little pineapple juice into this, but they didn't have pineapple. I'm going to take my sip before we dip into spoiler territory. And we're going to go into spoiler territory right now, today. Today? All right. So Gus's girlfriend, fiance, Selene, is at the start of this movie 8 months pregnant, and he wants to have a wedding before the baby is born to satisfy his mother. Now, what we didn't get, and this is a damn shame, is we didn't get an appearance from Mrs. Guster, a.k.a. Felicia Rashad, nor either of the Mr. Gusters. Either Keith David would have been nice, or Ernie Hudson. It would have been 2 movies in a row I'd have seen Ernie Hudson in. But we didn't get that, unfortunately. Damn. We not even a little bit. But okay, fine. But along the way, other things are happening. Let's talk about one of the things that I'm happy that they didn't do immediately. At the very start, Sean is trying to figure out some issues with Selene because she has to get divorce papers from her husband, but her past is murky and he has to discover what her past is, and so he's going to try to figure it out. He wants to go to the police and use their computers and stuff, and Maggie Lawson, aka Jules, is like, no, Sean, we don't want to get into this. This is her business. This is Gus and her business, right? Yada, blah, blah, blah. And she wants to keep the peace because she wants them to be the godparents of the new baby Guster. And she makes a point to say that this may be the closest we get to being parents. And so then Sean and Jules start discussing again, going over whether having a kid or not having the decision to not have a kid, which is what they decide in the second movie, is a good decision for them. I thought, for a brief second, for a significant portion of the movie, I thought that they were going to change Juliet's mind and have her get knocked up by the end of this movie. And I was like, please don't. I was like, don't do it. Don't do it. Just let her decision be her decision. Please, don't do that. She doesn't want a kid, and she was adamant about not wanting a kid in the second movie. She doesn't want a kid. She doesn't want a kid. Sean doesn't really want kids. Let that be that. Sean is too immature to be responsible for another human life on a regular basis, even though he's done it for however many he's been responsible and irresponsible for human lives all throughout the series. But to be responsible for a little human and raising that little human to be a person, Sean is not the person for that. And Jules, the evolution of Jules, from the beginning, you might have believed that she wanted it. By the time we get to the end of the series, it's clear she doesn't want or need children. And so and Sean doesn't need children. And it doesn't really, we don't need that. We didn't need that ending for them. That's not their fairy tale ending. That's the fairy tale ending for some people. That's the fairy tale ending for the majority of characters in media. That doesn't have to be their fairy tale ending, though. Their fairy tale ending, they already have it. They're married. They're together. They're, Sean solving crimes and Jules was with the police still. They had their fairy tale ending. They don't need that particular portion of the fairy tale ending. They can do what a lot of people have decided to do and be child free and watch from the sidelines and be the godparents and not have to, take care, feed and clothe and clean up after any little creature. Okay? That can be their life. And I was like, please don't, at the end of this, have Jules be knocked up. And thank God they didn't. Thank goodness that they decided what was in the second movie is going to continue to be the second movie. That's their life. That's their happy ending. Good for them. Good for them. That's not Guster's happy ending. Guster's happy ending is with a wife and child, and we get that. We see that. We understand that. Speaking of Guster, they brought up some of his exes because on this wild goose chase, it seems like Selene is criminal, etc., etc., and that's why she's on the run, etc., etc. So, many people, including Henry, talk about how his woman picker is broke, and I'm like, but they talk about his exes too, including Ruby and including Emmanuel. The two that, at least before this movie, I have argued up and down, should have been Gus's long-term babykins. You know what I mean? Ruby, you remember Ruby, the adventurous one with the high flying and the skydiving and the river rafting and shit. And Emmanuel, remember her? Played by Callie Hawk. Love you, Callie Hawk. Oh, beautiful beyond compare. And she was quick. She was on it. She fit right in. She fit right in immediately. But it wasn't to be. Unfortunately, we got stuck with Selene. But by the end of this movie, I don't hate Selene. Now, they didn't go so far as to make her character particularly likable, right? What they did was they didn't make her hateable, if that makes sense. So let's just say her character in the first couple of movies had entirely too much paprika. Let's say paprika. Let's say her character before had entirely too many raisins in this particular potato salad. Okay? White folks, I need you to talk to your black friends about this. Had entirely too many raisins in the potato salad. Raisins, marshmallows, whatever stupid things y'all want to add to the potato salad. Had entirely too many. And also had no flavoring at all. No pepper, no paprika, no spice of any kind. Not even a little bit of, just a hair, not even a touch. Just none whatsoever. Rather than take out the raisins and add some paprika, they just took out the raisins. Listen, that's an improvement. That's fine. That's an improvement. Rather than make Selene's character likable, they just took out the aspects that made her hateable. Okay, that's an improvement. That's an improvement. And for the amount of time that she was in the movie, that worked. That's an improvement. I didn't hate her by the end of this movie. And if there is a fourth movie, there probably will be. The crew loves getting back together. Everybody looked great in this movie, too, by the way. Like, they all looked refreshed, rejuvenated. They all looked fantastic. They could still do it again if they wanted to, and they make more stories. They could do this again if they wanted to. If they decide to do it again and they decide to make her more likable and fit more in with the group, that could work. And there's more goodwill now towards that character than I think there was in the first two movies. In the first two movies, she was just abrasive. She was just abrasively abrasive. And here she wasn't. Big improvement. We could see more character development from her later, in another movie. But just the taking away of everything that made her so terrible just made her so unlikable. In the other movies, fine. I'll take that. As far as the other characters are concerned, we have development of other characters. We see Karen's relationship, her marriage, her family life kind of go, and we don't get a conclusion to it. We see Karen's family life kind of go to shit. Like, she's supposed to meet up with her husband and her daughter for a camping trip, but she's caught trying to be a character witness for Woody's trial of impersonating a doctor, I suppose, in the last movie. Listen, however, Woody doesn't show up. Woody's one of the first characters that shows up screen only. He's on video chat with her in the courtroom. I would have liked to see Woody interact with other people. Woody interacting by himself was fine. They could have, you know what they could have done? They could have brought back the girl that Woody slept with at the wedding who smelled like biscuits. She could have been the one trying to get his costumes together. That would have been a great paycheck for her. She would have only had to be on screen for like 30 seconds. 15, really? Just hand them some shit? Something like that? That would have been cool. I imagine, though, there may have been some sort of health concerns, over abundance of caution, something that made it so Woody was on the set by himself. Okay, fine. But Karen misses leaving for the trip because of that. She ends up trying to catch up with them in the woods, but ends up missing them, and then ends up circling back around and joining the rest of the crew and trying to find Selene's husband and solve all the pieces of this mystery to get her legally divorced, even though apparently it wasn't a legal marriage to begin with. Who cares? But it was good to see Woody. I wish he was with the rest of the cast. Karen's relationship's falling apart, and Juliet tells her, like, listen, you saved your daughter. Like, she was held in a prison in Alcatraz. She was like, yeah, but you saved her. But yeah, what have I done lately as a mom? And that's interesting. The dynamic of trying to find the balance of her work-home life. But I always felt like Karen had a decent home-work-life balance. You know what I'm saying? Like, they never said anything to make it so that she didn't. And hopefully this is just a slight schism, like her marriage isn't entirely breaking up just because she misses one vacation. Like, there's nothing necessarily there to in previous iterations to suggest that wouldn't have been the case, but here I suppose it wasn't the case for her. She, had issues getting together with the family for the vacation. We also, and the other good thing about the Juliet Sean thing is that they went over the sometimes complicated feelings that making a decision like that can have with the individual and with their partner. So good for them for exploring it. This is what I'm talking about. It's good writing, good acting. It's good. It's good. It worked. It really worked. Henry was trying to build a crib because he thought that Sean and Juliet was going to have a baby, but it turns out it was going to be Guster's. So he's trying to build a crib for them, but also he's helping Lassiter deal with the effects of his stroke. Because our boy Timmy O in real life had the stroke. We didn't see Christy Swanson in this. I would have liked to have seen her in this. I think we didn't see Christy Swanson, and I think we didn't see Felicia Rashad because of shit that has nothing to do with Psych. Because of stupid shit like Twitter. It has nothing to do with them or their character. Like, oh, just bring them back because we want to see them. And by the time this movie comes out, nobody will have cared. Bring them to the set. Who gives a shit what they think about any of the things you're talking about? Stupid Twitter stuff. Stupid Twitter stuff. Anyway, but we do see Lassie's daughter. We do see Lassie's daughter, and she's helping Lassie around, and you can really still see the effects of the stroke on Tim and on Lassie. And Henry, is essentially trying to help usher Lassiter into this next phase of his life, which realistically looks like retirement, because he can't really do what he could have done a couple of years ago, and that's a bit of a shame. But Timmy O he's still looking good. He's circumstances or not, he's still looking good. You can see the effects, but that doesn't mean he can't act. That doesn't mean he can't still perform. That just means he's probably not going to be Spider-Man. You know what I mean? That's all that means. And that ship sailed a couple of years ago. So that's probably not going to be. He can still be. Hell, you can still make him a leading man if the character's right, if the story's right. You can still make him a leading man. There's nothing wrong with Timmy O's performance in this. I really liked him in this. And again, you've spent so much time with Lassie and these characters that you enjoy it. Buzz is in it for half. He's in it longer than he was in the last movie, for sure. Still in it for a brief second. But, you can see the progression. Buzz might be the next chief of police for Santa Barbara, the murder capital of the world. Okay, that's fine. I'll accept that. It's been enough years. I'll accept that graduation. They find Selene's husband, yada, yada, yada. He's trying to track down this evil businessman. They discovered the businessman was evil together, and so... but the businessman tried to track them down, and in trying to track them down, they decided that they needed to split up in order to not be tracked down, which doesn't make any sense, but fine. So they decided to separate, but them trying to find out the history of Selene and her husband and her real name, etc., which, by the way, is Kareem. So, fine, your real name is Kareem. You settle on Selene? That sounds like a bad knockoff of a shampoo. You settle on Selene? Ew. We actually don't get the name of Baby Guster, who turns out to be a boy. We don't get the name of Baby Guster, I don't think. We just godson, etc., and that's it. I don't think we got a name. I don't remember hearing a name. That poor kid. If that poor kid gets a name like Burton or Selene, oh, Jesus. Listen. There's some black traditions that don't need to be continued, and that's one of them. But there were some, this was a Psych movie. Overall, they did all the Psych stuff. They did, I've heard it both. They did a take on I've heard it both ways. I actually haven't heard it both ways. Great, that was fantastic. We didn't get to see Mary, which I'm fine with. I was never a big fan of Mary as a character, or his weird cameos in the other movies. I didn't need a Mary cameo in this one. We also get a take on the "This is my partner" gimmick, where James Roday says gives his last name is Rodriguez, and Gus is like, Rodriguez. He's like, it's always there, Gus. Ha! That got an audible chuckle out of me. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the movie in general. I enjoyed going into the different aspects of the different characters. And the big thing that came from this movie, which was really the big project, the sword of Damocles that was hanging over this movie's head, was, can you make me not hate Say Lynette? Can you make me not hate her? And they did. They didn't make me necessarily like her, but they made it so that I went from hating her over here to the ultimate goal was liking her over here, but they went from hating her over here to not hating her right here. Progress. That's progress, baby. That's progress. And again, I don't blame Jasmine Simon for this. I saw her do better work on Ballers. I just hated the way the character was developed in the first two movies. And they did a better job cleaning that slate off in this movie so that now, if quote unquote, if, they probably will continue with at least one more movie, they can go on. Now, they do a teaser stinger at the end, an end credits, post-credit scene where the husband, who ended up getting away, he ended up murdering the evil villain guy. So we didn't even really get to hear or see anything from him. So he ends up killing him and getting away, and he has pictures of the Gusters, including baby Guster, up in his dark room, and so he's going to stalk them the way he stalked the evil businessman for the last couple of years. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, because we saw an end scene trailer with John Cena, and we have not seen John Cena in any of these other movies. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just how this last one ended. Like, they're not Marvel. Even though they started with Marvel. They had the flippy things and they started with Marvel. They had a Marvel-esque intro. The way the Marvel Pictures thing intro, they had the Marvel, and that was very well done. Very well done. But that end credit scene doesn't mean anything. It clearly doesn't mean anything, because we never saw John Cena before. We may not see this other guy now, even though he seemed to fit in with the rest of the crew too. But we may or may not ever see him again. But in terms of this movie, we went from, like I said before, me absolutely, I think it was over here, me absolutely hating it's over here. Me absolutely hating Say Lynette. The goal was me liking her, and they went from me hating her to me not hating her at all. So clean slate on Say Lynette. Bravo. Fantastic. You love to see it. I love to see it here. In terms of Psych 3, this is Gus. Out of $15, Psych 3, this is Gus. And this is me not having gone back to my review of the original Psych movie or the second Psych movie. Because I feel like this number that's in my head right now feels like it's too high. Because it feels like I may have given the original Psych movie a lower number than this. And I don't understand, like, this is me trying to figure out, because I really like the first Psych movie. But I like this one. Like, this one was just silly. It was just a silly romp. It was just a silly romp. Like, they did the touching character moments, but it was a silly Psych episode. I like the silly Psych. My favorite Psych episodes are the silly ones. So this really ingratiated itself to me on many different levels. Is it a perfect Psych movie? I don't know that it's perfect. I don't know that it's perfect. Because again, they could have done a couple different things. They could have had Christy Swanson cameo. They could have had a Felicia Rashad cameo, even if they didn't want to have them on set because of whatever stupid Twitter things that are going on. They could have done video chats for them like they did for Woody. So not having them keeps it from complete 15. Also, not having me go all the way to liking Celine keeps it from 15. That was a large undertaking. They did a hell of a job getting me to neutral, but they didn't get me to like. So maybe a little backing off. However, God, this feels high. This feels really high. I don't remember what I gave the first Psych movie. This feels really high for me to say this. But I'm gonna say the number. I can't take it back. There's no backsies. This feels really high. I'm so conflicted because I feel like I shouldn't give this movie this high a rating. But I really liked it. But I really enjoyed it. And no, it wasn't the margarita mix with the pineapple. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Okay. Psych 3. This is Gus. Out of $15 is worth 13 out of $15. I feel I really enjoyed this movie. I can't think of another number for this movie. For me, it actually feels like 12 is too low, which is weird. Like, it's so weird. Like, I walk away from this movie feeling good. And that's a good thing. It's so weird because I just watched the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie, and I damn sure didn't give that this high a rating. Go watch that review for an honest review. But I can't give this any lower. I don't think I can give this a rating that's any lower than that. I really like this movie. I really did like this movie. It was comfort food. It was good. It was comfort food. It was a comfort food movie, and they hit the notes that they were supposed to hit. They hit the other stuff I'm talking about really is bonus stuff, but they hit the stuff that they were supposed to hit. They cleared the level. They cleared the level. You know, getting all 100 rings is bonus. They didn't necessarily need to get 100 coins. They could have, and they probably could have. They logistically probably could have gotten the bonus stuff, but they didn't necessarily need to get the bonus stuff. They didn't necessarily need to break all the bricks in the level. You know what I mean? So, you can go away, I'm filming. So, you know, I can't... I really can't be too harsh on this. I liked it. I liked it. Hey, Mikey, he likes it. I did. I liked it. I liked it. Party people, that's enough about me. I need to hear about you. I need you to, come on, son, to the comment section down there. I need you to tell me what you thought about Psych 3. This is Gus. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think I'm too harsh on Sailin' A? Do you think that the name Sailin' A is a good name? Who are you? Who decided that was a good name at all? But okay, if you're that one person, then you can let me know down there in the comment section. Like, share, and subscribe. I am working on another project. It's going to take me some time. It may even require a new channel, but I'm going to need you to watch out for that, and you can keep your ear close to the ground on when and where all that's going to happen if you follow me on all my socials media, and the socials media are, as always, Surreal469, SURREAL, the numbers 469, wherever you go. If you want to follow me on my weight loss journey, I am down to 250 pounds now, and I started well over 300. I think it was somewhere around 320. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. By the time I have my birthday, I think I should be somewhere around 340, 335, which ironically enough is the weight I used to give my creative characters on WWE video games. So it'll be interesting to see where that is. I'm not going to hit 200 by my birthday, but I think I can hit 240, 235, quite possibly. So that's something to watch out for. And you can follow that journey on Instagram at Surreal200. The number's 200. Party people, that's all for me, at least for right now. You'll see me a little bit later. I'm not going to tell you a time or a place, but you'll see me sometime later. And in the meantime, the in-between time, cheers.
I'm a nice guy, I'm a nice place, with a nice smile on my nice face. Turn it back and I'm making sure my night's straight. And when you're out of town, I'll be making sure your wife's straight.